it's Dale here. Today I'm going to show you my ink book. This is using my Cardi paper, which I said last time I really love working with. And I made an ink book, it's not recently, using all the different inks that I play with, and you can see how the colours run. And I've started really with walnut ink, and I made little tags and I wrote with it. And I'll just show you here what happens with walnut ink. If you mix up the crystals, which they look like this, mix them in a little bit of water and different strengths, and then when you've got it all mixed, it lasts for quite a while when you put it in the jar, but I just do little bits as I need them, and it can be very, very diluted. So if you use like a half a teaspoon of walnut ink to a cup of water, and then a teaspoon, and so on and so on, and here to make it really dark I've done 4 teaspoons, so you can grade. Then with your walnut ink you can add other things if you want to. So because I haven't got a second spoon here, I'll just add a little bit of this with the end, and these are the magical markers. But once you do that, you're putting on, always put the lids back on, because if I don't put the lids back on then invariably I knock them over. So I'll work onto this little bit of surface here, and what happens when you start to add another colour, I could use a pen but I'm just using the back of my spoon, and when it dries you might start to see a little bit of the French lilac it is, just colour just comes through as it dries. But with walnut ink, if you don't need to use a proper brush, you can use anything that you've got lying around. And if you can see this X Qantas spoon is quite good for making shapes. So that's my walnut ink, and I've used the same here. I've stamped with walnut ink on a piece of tissue text. So that's a stamp, and I've just swished the walnut ink over top of the stamp, and then stamp with it so you can see what the effect that it has. And I'll take you back here and show you some of the other things that I've done with walnut ink. So I've kept reasonably good notes so that I know what I've done. I've sprayed with walnut ink, so you can mix it into a spray bottle and sprinkle these things out. And I've sprinkled the crystals straight onto a damp surface. That's another thing that you can do. And then I've used these little tags here, so I've used different amounts and I put Glad wrap down on the top to make that sort of sprinkled effect. And here I've mixed it over an oil pastel stick like a Sennelier, so it just gives that nice effect. Here I've sprinkled the crystals here, and then I've also mixed them with like polished pigments or the mica flakes, magical micas. And if you add gum arabic, it'll make it sustain. You can use it onto surfaces and it won't come off. I've sprinkled salt. I've used distress inks, which many people I know have got, and the lovely effects that you get of that, almost like a rusting effect. And I've done some other things, but I've also then gone to my Moonshadow Mist, which are these guys here, the sprays that we have, except that they've got walnut in them, so when you spray with it, it doesn't look very exciting. This is Landlubber Green. Now when that dries, that green will show. So I've done a lot of samples with those just to see how they work, and I've also used them with a brush or a stick just to write the name. Once you have inks to use, any sort of inks that you might have, you can write with them, you can paint with them, you can spray with them, do all these sorts of things. Now I did a little tag system for myself so that I could see that was the Landlubber Green that I've got here. You can see how the green's starting to emerge with that undertone of walnut. So it makes them really quite special, these ones. I haven't seen any other pigment dyes and mica and walnut to get that sort of lovely old world effect. Then I've done a few other things. I've used stencils, of course. It's a stencil, spray through the stencil with the spokes, stamp with letters, etc. Anything that you feel like doing, and I've sprayed through other things just to get the different effects of the backgrounds. They make great backgrounds. And then I could work further onto them by printing and so on. And I've used other, heavier sprays that I've got just to put those colours down. This is a lovely one called Malachite, Mystic Malachite, which is really nice. Put Glad Wrap on, crunch them up, and I've used, this is paper casting with water-soluble paper, and so on. And then, of course, this is what happens when you paint. I painted the surface with black, and I've sprayed it with Glitz Spritz, which is just mica and nothing else. So once the colour, this is silver, but this different colours that I've used, peacock and so on. So what a wonderful effect. People don't use black surfaces and you spray on them as much as they might. I don't think they necessarily understand what they're doing. And just a little thing about them all here. And the other magical ones, of course, are the Koh-i-Noors. Many people, these are little, they're so badly treated that the lid won't come off that one. I have to wedge it. Or sometimes you buy them like this. So they are a watercolour, water dye, and once you bleach them, water dye with bleach on, they're just so rich. The colours are so vibrant. I know I introduced them to them years ago, and they're not expensive and they're wonderful to work with. You can blend all the colours and so on. And then I've also used my sprays on Evolon, especially like the Moonshadow Mists. And then, of course, when I was playing around, practicing, I did a lot of stuff with the Starburst sprays, which are just the same except that these are dye and pigments and so on. So you've got these sort of the real set of proper colours. Then I might just go to another page further on here. I'm just playing with different things that I've had over the years, jelly roll plays, but if all the playing that you might do, the intense blocks, the Adirondack pens that you might have floating around, the Graffitints, which are so nice. And if you take, the micas and pop them in here, you get these lovely strong colours, which you can paint textile medium them open if you're using them on water, or if you're just using them in here, they'll stay such beautiful colours, very easy to move. You can mix these micas with anything to make an ink, in fact, a pen. So there you go. I hope you found that a little bit interesting, and see you again another time.